Continuing with chapter 8, um, special assessments. A special assessment tax is an improvement tax. It's not for improvements that you do to your house, it's for improvements the municipality does near your house. They will assess a special assessment tax to only the homeowners that live in the area near that improvement so that they pay for that improvement that benefits their neck of the neighborhood, so to speak. So yeah, you don't have a say in that really, except through your voice in voting and attending your city council meetings. And then you could question it and try to oppose it. And if enough people get them to change their mind uh, in doing what pet project it is they want to do, then you can maybe influence that uh, if you're lucky. So that's the special assessment tax. So property owners have to pay for those improvements. You could pay for it all at once, or you could pay for it over a period of time. They'll let you make smaller, more affordable payments until it's eventually paid off. Now, condo associations, I told you they're like mini governments. Well, condominium associations, they also have the power to issue special assessments on the unit owners in a complex if they wanted to do improvements as well. Um, so that's another thing that we didn't mention in that last chapter when talking about condominiums and selling condominiums. You should try to make sure that there are no outstanding special assessments when selling them as well. I think they even put a new uh, comment about that in our standard sales contracts because it happens so often. So, special assessment tax could vary from parcel to parcel, how much that you're paying and if you pay. Improvements may be financed over many years, and they may be financial burden on new owners if the seller didn't pay it off first. So we should really make sure the seller pays it off first before they take ownership of that. So let's write next to the title special assessment improvements taxes that it's improvements done by municipality, not the owner. So it's not for improvements that the owner does to their own house, but improvements that the municipality does in the area near their house that they'll charge the property owners locally to pay for. Let me know when you guys have those notes.
Got it. Done.
All right. Assessed value is the value. Remember, the tax that everybody pays, that general real estate tax that everybody pays on their property when you own real estate. That's called the ad valorem tax. Ad valorem is Latin. It means according to value. So your property is taxed according to its value. Now, the value that your property is taxed at is not the market value. There's something called an assessed value. That's a value that the tax man puts to your property. They base it off of the full value, the market value of the property. Um, and then they do a little formula to calculate it uh, based off of a tax ratio. So there's a tax ratio and there's a tax rate. The tax rate is used to calculate the taxes. The tax ratio is used to reverse engineer the messed up math that the tax assessor uses to determine the assessed value that they're uh, charging your property. So the assessed value is the value used for tax purposes. You need to know the different types of value. Market value is based on supportable evidence, comparable properties that have recently sold that are similar to your property, similar in size, style, location, and amenity, condition, age. The assessed value is the value that's used for taxation purposes, and that is assigned by your tax man there. So the formula that I'm going to give you here to reverse engineer what the market value taxes are based on is you take the assessed value and you divide it by the tax ratio and then times it by 100, and that'll give you the market value that the tax man actually used to base your taxes on. Why do they do this? I don't know. Probably just to make it harder for you to figure out how much they're estimating your home is worth, so that you don't complain when you get your tax bill. Because they show you the assessed value on the tax bill, and you're like, "Wow, my house is worth more than that." So then you don't complain. I don't know. You know, now the assessed value is what the year's taxes are based on, and New Jersey has a set goal of full value assessment. But that would almost be impossible to attain, to assess all real estate at 100% of the market value. They would have to do an appraisal on your house every year. And can anybody tell me when's the last time, if ever, that an appraiser actually came to your house that was sent there by the city to value it? Anybody?
For me, it was last year.
You had the city send out an appraiser?
Yes. They said that the only thing they didn't do was come inside of the house. They asked me if I did any renovations inside of the house. But or not, they would just stay outside. They measured and buy. And the first time was when I bought the house.
That's interesting. They're supposed to go into a house to give an appraisal.
Yeah, no,
How you gonna value it? You got a lazy appraiser. Yeah.
I was happy she didn't come inside. Yeah.
Now, what town was that?
Warren Township.
Warren. So did Warren have an appraisal done for the whole town? Did they do a whole reassessment, revaluation of all the houses in the town?
Well, my closest neighbor is like 2,000 feet from me. So I know Michael has his appraisal the same day I did have mine. And then, but he told me that he didn't go inside. And that was last year. And the last...
So they were doing the whole neighborhood then, right?
Kinda, yes.
All right. Yeah. So sometimes that's not that common. Sometimes you get the municipality that does a reassessment, a revaluation of the entire town when enough people are complaining that they're being overtaxed.
Yeah, no, they call us. Oh, we need to go and check your house to see you did any renovations and blah, blah, blah.
It could also be something else too. If you noticed, most municipalities, like me, I have never had a city send an appraiser to my house until I filed for a tax appeal.
No, we didn't do it.
and then they got to send one out. But other than that, I have never had a city even approach us about doing an appraisal here at the house.
Yeah, this is the second time. I've been here for 9 years, and the first time they came was like 2 years after we bought the house.
Okay, well, check this out. Appraisers, the town does actually send out appraisers every year, but they usually don't do the whole town. They usually just do a small sampling of homes in an area. And then they do a blanket, and after they value them, they do a blanket assessment on the values of all the other homes in town based on that small sampling of homes that they did appraise.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why some people may be like, well, yeah, the city never sent an appraisal. We never had an appraisal come to our house that was sent by the city. So how do they keep raising our taxes and our values if they've never been here? Well, they do a sampling of homes in an area, and then they do a blanket assessment based on that sampling. So you should
Yes.
that that sampling that they did wasn't a bunch of people who had improvements done to their houses, because then there's going to be a lot of people that their values are being overassessed. You
Yes,
know.
they raised our taxes that year. This
And they just went off your word. They didn't even go inside. They
even
just
didn't go inside. Thank God. We just did renovations last year. So I say, nah, hopefully they don't come inside yet.
well, they probably looked at the permitting and seen that you had those uh, improvements done. So they probably just did the
Yeah,
looking
as
at
soon
the
as
outside of the house, and they'll take a guesstimate of
yeah,
what
as
you
soon
got
as
to
they
know.
don't, because we have septic system. So as soon as we don't add a bathroom, it's okay for them because they just ask us, did you got extra bathroom? You got this because we are allowed to have three bathrooms. That's all.
Mhm.
So they ask kind of
Uh,
question.
yeah, because the depending on the size of your septic system,
You're not allowed to have many.
you have limitations. And then you
Mhm.
have to be careful on how you maintain that septic system. When you
Yes.
when you wash, you can't be using antibacterial soaps
You cannot use
and
cutters. You cannot use
cleaners and
so
stuff.
many things.
Yeah, otherwise you mess up that system, you
You
know.
cannot use the wipes, nothing. It
And
has to be just water
you know what? People should not be using those wipes anyway.
anywhere.
Those wipes that people do, um, uh, I call them fat burgers, or there's actually I got that from watching a documentary. They call it fat burgers, where in New York City they showed you the sewer systems and how they work, and they're talking about those flushable and biodegradable wipes that they have. They're not
Hmm.
flushable. Those things are horrible because just try to pull one apart. You see how hard it is to pull it apart?
Yeah, they stay in the system.
Yeah, yeah, maybe biodegradable, 50 years from now, maybe. But when they start getting all tangled up together with all the other stuff that goes down the sewer, it makes it like this. You mix it in with greases and all kinds of other stuff. It becomes this solid mass that sometimes they need to cut the sections of pipes out because they clog them
To
so much.
fix it.
You
Mm.
know, I've got videos I had on that, but I wasn't going to add those to classes. As it is, the classes uh got a lot of content in it as it is, and this class, since they put in all these new disclosures, I read them to you guys and I went over them with you guys in detail. I made these videos with you. I'm going to be posting them on the website and our pages so that they're available for people to see us going over all those new contracts and disclosures um, uh, in detail. But the future classes that I teach, I'm not going to do that because that took way too much time. As it is, we're behind on our schedule because of all of these disclosures that we went over in detail. I usually like to go over that stuff, but these things took way too long to go over. So, like the next classes, I'm just going to tell people, well, this is this disclosure and this is what that does. Let's move on. I want to give you guys the benefit and show you how to fill it out and all that stuff. But you know what? Future classes, I'm just going to tell them you're going to have to go over this with your broker because it'll take way too much time. But I do have a video on our website that you could check out. That's the way I'm going to do it in the future. I didn't realize it was going to take this long and this much out of our class, because we are behind on our schedule here so far. So let's continue on here. So we have the assessed value. That's the value that the tax man uses, but their targeted goal is to value all properties at their full value assessment. But that would be impossible to do unless they got an appraiser into everybody's house every year, so that they could tell, when they did improvements, what condition the house is in, yada yada yada. So periodically, municipalities have to do a revaluation and send out some appraisers. Now, most people never see an appraiser from the city ever. And I just explained why that is, because they do a small sampling. Because if you notice, most of the homes in the area, they're probably similar in architectural style. That's what they do in a lot of suburban communities. They'll take the homes, they're all approximately the same lot sizes, give or take a little bit. You know, unless we're talking acres, it's not really going to make much of a difference. The uh, uh, they have approximately the same house sizes, give or take a little. They're all probably the same architectural style in neighborhoods that they built up. So they'll do a small sampling of a couple of houses in the area, and then they'll do a blanket assessment, assuming the value for the rest of the homes in the area are the same. And that's how your taxes keep getting going up every year when they're supposed to be doing an assessment. They do assessments, just not on every home, unless enough people complain about it, and then they'll send out an appraiser to everybody's home, and then people will complain about it because they don't want you going in their house because they probably did work without permits. You know, they don't want their taxes going up because now they'll see what work was done. Um, which another interesting thing is most municipalities in New Jersey, the permit department and the tax department, they're usually right next door to each other or across the hall from each other, but they never communicate with each other. So they don't even know that you had all this work done in your house. All right, now I have a little brochure here. Here's the updated one about uh, uh, how property values is valued for taxation purposes. Um, um, and then we also have a tax appeal guide here for you. Now, let's see. So an outside appraisal firm is hired to assess every rateable. A rateable is a taxable property. To bring everybody's assessment up to the current market value. The New Jersey Division of Taxation and Property Administration has published an excellent brochure, How Property is Valued for Tax Purposes. Another outstanding brochure is Understanding Revaluations. Now, a list of all the ratables in the municipality would be called an assessment roll. You'd have to write that in there because it's not in the book there. At least not right there, I don't think. And then we have, let's see, if you want to appeal your taxes because you feel the tax man overestimated the value of your property, it is incorrect, but yet a common thing that people do is that when they feel like their tax bill is too high, they go down to the tax assessor's office and they complain. They say, I want to do a tax appeal to get my taxes lowered. And then they play a game with you. Uh, they they're playing a semantics game. They say, "Oh no, we don't do that. For that, you need to talk to your politicians. They're the ones that set those rates of what your taxes are. So we don't have any control over that." So they're playing a game. So you have to understand how it works when you go in there. They're technically right. Um, the tax assessor, when you do a tax appeal, all they do is they have control over the value of the property that's assigned to that property. And then in order to lower your taxes, they're based on the value and the tax rate that the municipality uses. So you got to take that assessed value assigned by the tax man, and then you multiply it by the tax rate to get the taxes that they're going to charge you. So you're not appealing the tax amount to get the tax lowered. That is set by the politicians when they set their rates. You have to argue that they overestimated the value of your house, which then the taxes are based on the value of the house. You see the semantics game that they play? Um, so unfortunately, most of those city halls taxmen, they play this very dishonest game with people by not telling them setting them straight. Well, we have no control over that. That's your politicians. You got to go talk to them. That's what they'll say to try to blow you off. But then you got to say, well, I know how it works. I just wanted to see what you valued my property at because I think you overestimated the value, which my taxes are based on. And I'd like to appeal the value. Okay. You got to be correct in what you say. Otherwise, they're going to give you the brush off. All right. So you do have this here. This is the guide that they put together about understanding evaluations. This is a brochure they put together here for you. And I will share this with you right now in the chat window. That's the guide for understanding tax valuations. All right. And then there's a tax appeal guide info page. Let me, I could copy those easier from my slideshow. Let me try to copy that from the slideshow. Or can I? See, yep. I could share that with you in the chat window too. So some municipalities or counties, like mine, Union County, we could do our tax appeals online and to give the residents access to tax research tools and such. Okay, so you go to the Treasury Department, New Jersey Treasury, to appeal your property's assessment. You got to do that with your county's tax board. Now, keep in mind that the taxman who assesses the value to your property, they're allowed a 15% margin of error. So they could be off by up to 15%, and you can't do a tax appeal. If they're off by over 15%, well, then you could get a tax appeal done. But they're allowed a 15% margin of error, and if it's within that 15% margin of error, if they overestimated the value of your house by 15%, it is what it is. You're stuck with that assessment, my friends. Yeah. Because, in reality, in New Jersey, some properties have been assessed as much as 150% of their actual value, and some as low as 15% of its actual value. It's kind of crazy, really. So here's all the information about taxes and appealing and how you go about that whole process, the hearing and all that. Okay, so you can appeal the value of your home if you feel like you've been taxed too much. There's an equalization factor that some municipalities have as well. The state put out this equalization factor that they created because there's some counties are richer than others. So those areas may have an equalization factor applied to them to make an adjustment to make sure that some areas are not being overtaxed versus others so that everybody pays their fair share. They love that statement. So the assessed value of, this is on page 138, the assessed value of each property in the area is multiplied by that equalization factor and the tax rate, and then it's applied to the assessed value to determine what your taxes are. So if they give you an equalization factor, you have to factor that into the value first, and then you apply the tax rate before you figure out the taxes. Don't worry, we got some problems that we'll do a little math on, even though they show you some here. So the equalization factor times the assessed value gives you the equalized assessment value, and then you times that by the tax rate to get your taxes. If no equalization factor is given, you just take the assessed value times the tax rate to figure out what the taxes are. So when calculating taxes, there's a mill rate that they use as well. A mill, you need to know this term. They usually give it on exams. A mill is 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent. In any case, it's 3 decimal points, 3 decimal spaces. All right, so the okay, so the real estate located within the jurisdiction in every municipality is referred to as an assessment roll. That's a list of all the ratables in your town. We're just highlighting that on page 138 over here. So, for example, a taxing district budget indicates they need $300,000 to be raised from real estate taxes. I don't know, maybe to get a new bus or street sweeper or something. Who the hell knows? And the assessment roll of all the taxable real estate within the district equals $10 million. The tax rate is computed like this. Based on how much money they need to raise, how much extra money they need to raise, 300,000, divided by the city's budget of taxes that are collected, $10 million, would give it a mill rate of 0.03 or 3%. So a mill is 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent, 3 decimal points. And this could be expressed as 30 mills per $1 of assessed value, $3 per $100 of assessed value, or $30 per $1,000 of assessed value. Now, you could get math problems either one of these ways, but typically in New Jersey, your property taxes are based on per $100 of assessed value. So in New Jersey, the tax rate can only be expressed as dollars per 100 of assessed value. Although you can get problems on exams that ask you that give you an example that's based per $1,000 of value. You really got to read the question and see what it says. So I put together this slide for you. They got a lot of that stuff together now. The assessed value is a value used for tax purposes, not the actual property value, which is called the market value. To reverse engineer what the market value taxes are based on, you take the assessed value, divide it by the tax ratio, and multiply that by 100. And that'll give you the market value that the tax man assessed your property against or based on. And New Jersey's goal when assessing property values for tax purposes is to eventually assess them all at 100% of their true market value. Oh my God, I shudder to think how much our property taxes would be if they did that, based on the tax rates that they've already established. So that would be almost impossible to attain now. So if you get you may get a question on exam about this. What is New Jersey's goal when assessing property values for taxation purposes? Full value assessment. Now, if they ask you, does New Jersey assess all property? How does New Jersey assess all properties? The wrong answer would be full value assessment, because that's their goal, but they don't do that. That would be almost impossible to do. Every municipality would have to appraise your property every year. And first of all, that's illegal. I think the law says that they could, as often as they could do it, is every 18 months. So property values have been assessed as low as 15% of their true market value and as high as 150% of their market value. Tax assessors allowed that 15% margin of error too, so they could overestimate the value of your property by 15%. There's nothing you could do. Over 15%, well, now you could do a tax appeal. So the assessed value is what you do. You don't appeal the taxes. An owner can dispute the value of the improvements to the real estate, not the land, because as a general rule, land does not depreciate. not except in extremes, like the land is contaminated or something. Otherwise, land does not depreciate. A rateable is a taxable property. An assessment roll is a list of all the ratables in the municipality. Here's the guide on how to file a tax appeal, the tax appeal guide, and understanding valuations. I have those three guides here. And you know what? I sent you those other ones from the other slide, but I got all of these here in one place. I'm going to put them together, and I am going to send them to you. They are in the class links Word document, though, but here I will send them to you right now, the chat window. And then the equalization factor, if there is one given, you would factor that into the value first. You factor that into the assessed value to figure out the equalized assessed value. Then you times that by the tax rate to get the taxes. And if they didn't give you an equalization factor, well, then you just figure out based on the assessed value times the tax rate will give you the taxes. I already gave you guys a formula on another slide about how to calculate the assessed value based on the tax ratio on a different slide. Did everybody get that one? Or did anybody take note of that at all or no?
Yes.
Okay. So a tax rate is when dealing with tax rates, you got that mil, which is 1/1000th of a dollar or 1/10 of a cent or 3 decimal points. They could give you a word problem about what is a mil, or they could give you a math problem with a mil. Tax bills come out quarterly, every 3 months. You don't need to pay your taxes in full at the beginning of the year. They become a lien on your property at the beginning of the year, but you don't have to pay them in full. You pay them quarterly. Tax liens are specific liens that only affect the property being taxed. And if you ever need to get foreclosed on because you don't pay your taxes, it doesn't affect your credit, believe it or not. Tax foreclosure does not affect your credit. The municipalities don't report that to your credit agencies. Now, I got a link here to a free tax search system. However, because of Daniel's law that was passed, there's no central search system where you could search all counties in one search anymore. Not until you get your real estate license, and then you have these paid tools that we could use. But publicly available tools, they nixed that. The reason because you have all of these political extremists that are go marching in the street for this or that reason, whether it is trans activist or BLM or whatever it is. You get all these people out there, smashing up the neighborhood and, protesting this legislation and that legislation. And then some of these people have gone to the extremes where then they even gone to Supreme Court justices' houses and started banging pots and pans outside their houses, or one of them even attempted to go there to kill them because of this kind of stuff, and they threaten police and their families. So cops just trying to do their jobs. Now you got these organized anarchists that are now doing the gaslighting. They're putting your information about your private information about your family out on the web. So they're putting police undercover and regular cops, Supreme Court justices. They don't like the decisions they're making. These radicals are publicizing your personal information so that the crazies can go after your family. Okay, they've done that with a lot of major court cases over the last couple of years, and it was allowed to happen. They just let it happen. You've seen it on the news day after day. Look at that one Supreme Court justice where they were doing that for a couple weeks. That they were allowing these protesters to be outside of his house. Well, that's against federal law, first of all, to harass any judge, let alone a Supreme Court justice. So, but it was, I guess, it was in a, I guess he was a Republican, and it was in a very liberal area, so the law enforcement didn't care too much about that. So they allowed it to carry on, which it doesn't matter if you're, left, right, in between. That should not be allowed. The rules are the rules. They should be applied equally to everybody. Um, y- and you can't put outside forces trying to influence cases like this. So because of these dangers possessed by these nut jobs, the law was created called Daniel's Law that allows people who are in these positions, judges, law enforcement, to be able to wipe clean any information about them from publicly available databases. And that's because of these nut jobs that would go and take that information, publicize it, and say, here, go attack this guy, go harass his family, so that we could get what we want because we don't like their decisions. That's talk about a threat to democracy. These are the people that are always like, oh, our democracy, save our democracy. Yeah. First of all, we don't have a democracy here in the United States. We have a constitutional republic. But this is, you talk about threats to the way of life and the American way, that's definitely it. Sure. If you don't like the way the courts rule and you don't like our processes, go go harass or threaten the family members, and then maybe you'll get your way. All right, so Daniel's Law was put in place to prevent that. So even though I got a tax record, I got a link here to a tax record search system, as you can see. It's for Monmouth County. It used to have all the counties here in the drop down, but it was hosted by Monmouth County. And then you could click. So these are all the municipalities in Monmouth County that you could search. But really, if you go to you could click here on the NJ County Boards of Taxation. You would have to go to each one of those county boards of each one of these counties' websites to individually try to find your information. So, like, say that I live in Union County. So I could click there, go to the Union County's Board of Taxation website, and then I could go to their assessment records search. And look at that. Doesn't it look very familiar? Except it's only for Union County. So they leave it on each county to be responsible for their own stuff, their own database now. So even though Monmouth County put together and they linked all the different counties into one search format for convenience, now you have to go and search. And it's not that easy to find the search system on some of these counties' websites. But that's how you do it. Okay, so I did put here for you guys a starting. I made a tiny URL here, a shortened URL, so you could do that search. tinyurl.com/NJ tax search. I was going to put together a complete easy guide. I may put together still, instead of having one search available, I'll have a link with all the different links to the different county searches. I'll put that together and put it on our website somewhere so that you could search it. I was going to create one interface for it, but then again, I don't want to be held legally responsible if something happens because of these nut jobs, right? If there is law enforcement that did not remove their information from that database. So, to avoid that liability, I will put together a page on our website with the links to each county board's site, um, and their search page, like this one. This is the NJACTB. That's the official website for the New Jersey County Tax Boards Association. So here's all of the different counties you could go to. Actually, I don't need to do it. You got it right here. Okay. So here, I'll share that with you guys. Okay. So if you want to do a tax appeal, the tax assessor is allowed a 15% margin of error. Tax rates are used to determine the amount of taxes to be paid. Equalization factor, if used, but usually is not provided on the tax record, would need to be calculated first. If a property's assessed value is $133,000 and has a mill rate of $23.01 per $1,000 of value, even though they tell you in New Jersey we base it off of $100 of value, but let's just say that was based on per $1,000 of value. How much would the property tax be for this property? Or how much would this property tax have to go up if they're using this mill rate to figure out how much extra money the municipality needs? Well, this is how you calculate it. 133,000 divided by 1,000. How many thousands are there in 133,000? 133. Times that by the mill rate, $23.01, and that gives you $3,060.33. Assessed value times tax rate is the property taxes. Nothing too difficult there, is it? Okay, I guess I'll have to throw out that morning poll now.
Not too difficult. Victor, I have taken a picture of this so I can make sure I understand it. It's just dividing. I guess in my notes I also did the 1/10 cent 3 decimal thing, and I think that's what I'm trying to understand for that.
At the end of this chapter, you got some math problems, but in this slideshow, I got a couple we'll go over too.
Okay.
How come we only had 3 people answer the poll? Come on, guys. Everybody answer that attendance poll. Wake up. Pay attention. Come on. Where are you at? Looks like we're not going to be giving anybody credit for the day.
Here.
Then answer the poll. Everybody got a poll up on their screen. Answer the poll. It's been sitting up there already for a minute. And we still don't have everybody answering it. All right, I'm going to end it. It don't matter. This class is going to be going over. We're going to have extra days to finish it anyway because we're behind. All right. Here's another problem for you. Tax ratios, once again, are used to reverse engineer to figure out what the market value is that the tax assessor used to determine the assessed value. So assessed value, if you could look at your tax records, you take the assessed value, this is the formula, assessed value divided by the tax ratio times it by 100 will give you the market value that the tax assessor used. So this is the formula how you would do it in math. If the value of the property was assessed at $133,000 and the tax ratio, if it was in the tax records, if not, you'd have to contact your municipality, or you could check online with the state tax board to find out what each municipality's tax ratio was used. And you take the assessed value and you divide it by the ratio, the tax ratio, and that gives you $3,294.52. And then you times that by 100. So then the market value that they actually used and based the taxes on was $329,452. See, you got to reverse engineer. See, taxes are based on the assessed value here, but the assessed value is calculated with some formula based on the market value. Now, you cannot do a tax appeal of the assessed value. You have to do it based on the market value that the tax assessor used. But they don't tell you that. you need to figure out what the market value is. They only give you the assessed value when they mail you those little postcards with the tax bill. It says this is not a bill, and it tells you what the taxes were last year and what they're going to be this year. All right. You need to do this reverse engineering to figure out what the market value was that they're using. And if they're overestimating the value of your home, if this was higher than the value of your home, it would have to be higher than 15% overestimation. Otherwise, you still can't do a tax appeal. All right, so here's a problem for you guys. This is from question number 5 at the end of this chapter. There's a question in the book. It says, a house is valued at $120,000. It is assessed for 80% of its value. The tax rate is $26.34 per $1,000. How much is the property tax bill? What would be your first step here? By the way, you guys can use calculators on your school and your state exam. Just can't use those fancy real estate calculators or your phones. Your phones should not be anywhere near you. Not unless you want to fail it automatically. So the house is valued at $120,000, is assessed for 80% of its value, has a tax rate of $26.34 per $1,000 of value. How much is the property tax bill? What's the first step? How are you going to approach figuring this out? Tell me.
Are we doing 120,000 divided by the tax rate, 2634?
No.
No?
What are taxes based on? Because first of all, let's figure out what is the question trying to get from us? What's the question asking of us? What does it want to know?
The property tax bill.
The tax bill. Okay, so what are taxes based on? How do we calculate taxes? What are they based on? Ask yourself a question about the question before you try figuring out the question. Try to figure out what the hell the question's asking of you. Step 1, figure out what the hell the question's asking from you. What do you want from my life? Question. What is it you're trying to figure out? They want to find out what the tax bill is, like you said.
Victor, okay. So I was using the wrong slide as reference. I meant like 120,000 divided by 1,000 first, then multiplied by the. No.
Nope. Right? Nope. First, ask ourselves a question about the question. The first question we asked is, what are you asking of me? Question. And you were correct in saying that they want to know how much the taxes are. Okay, so ask yourself another question now. Forget about looking at the question. What are taxes based on? How do we calculate taxes? What does ad valorem mean? I asked a bunch of questions there. Come on, guys, have an answer to one of them. What does ad valorem mean? What are your taxes based on?
Are you house by?
I'm sorry, you got cut off there.
The tax get of your house. How is the value of your house? They take your taxes from there.
Okay, wait. You said the taxes are based on the value of your house. What value? Market value or assessed value?
Assessed value.
All right. Now we're getting somewhere. So what is the assessed value on this house?
80%.
80% of the 120,000. So what is 80% of 120,000? 120,000 times 80% or 0.80. What do you get?
96,000.
Okay, 96,000. Okay, now let's go on to the next step. Now that we know the assessed value of the property is 96,000. If the tax rate is $26.34 per $1,000, how many thousands are there in 96,000?
96.
So now we take 96 times 2634 and we get
2,528.64.
yep. 120,000 times 80% gives us that $96,000 assessed value. Divided by 1,000, that's 96. 96 times the tax rate of 2634. It gives us $2,528.64. That's how we came up to answer B. Any rocket science involved there?
No. Victor, can we take like a regular calculator for the test?
Yes, a normal
Okay.
regular calculator without scientific formulas or memory.
Okay, perfect.
They don't want you typing in exam questions and saving them and then selling them somewhere or something. That's
Okay.
why you can't use your cell phone either.
Perfect.
Here's another question for you using the equalization factor and mill rates. Now this is from the old 13th version book, so you're not gonna have this question probably. I'm not sure if it's going to be at the end of the chapter 8 somewhere there. What is the annual real estate tax on a property that's valued at $135,000 and assessed for tax purposes at $47,250 with an equalization factor of 125% when the tax rate is $250 per $100? Is your mind spinning yet? See how long-winded some of these questions can be? So, what did I tell you to do? What's the strategy to answer a question? Forget about the question for a second. What's the strategy I told you to figure out first?
To first figure out what they're asking us.
Yeah, what the hell does this question want out of my life? Right? So what does the question want out of your life here? What is the annual real estate tax? That's what we're trying to figure out. Okay. So what do we need? What numbers do we need to figure out the annual taxes? Forget about this question. What are taxes based on?
135.
Forget about this question for a second. I'm just asking you a verbal question. What are taxes based on? Don't look at the question. What are taxes based on?
The
I'm asking a question just like I did on the last problem. How do you calculate taxes? They're based on some value. What value is that?
the property value,
The market value or the assessed value?
The assessed value.
test value.
Okay, so you see, I want you guys to keep repeating this. This is your strategy on how to answer questions on exams. You have to get this down, otherwise you're reverting back to your old ways. You got to ask yourself a question about the question so that you can figure out what they're asking of you and what information do I need in order to be able to complete this problem without even looking at the problem. Only you initially read the problem. Okay, what is this question? What is this problem asking of me? Okay, now what information do I need to gather to get to that answer? Okay, now I'll look at the problem again now that I know. I need the assessed value. So what is the assessed value? Now let's look at the question again. Do they give us the assessed value or do we need to figure it out?
We had to figure it out.
Let's see.
I think they give it to us right there, right?
What is the annual real estate taxes on a property that's valued at $135,000 and assessed for tax purposes at $47,250? They gave us that They gave us the information already. So the assessed value is $47,250. That $135,000 amount that they gave us, we don't need it for anything. Okay, so the assessed value is used to figure out taxes, right? But when they mention an equalization factor, what did I tell you you need to do? You need to calculate that in first. So with a assessed value of 47,250 and an equalization factor of $125,000, what was the formula? When we got an equalization factor. Here, let me back up a couple slides. When they give you an equalization factor times the assessed value gets you the equalized assessed value, and then you multiply that by the tax rate to get the taxes. So once again, 47,250 times 125% or 1.25 if you don't have a percent key in your calculator. And what does that give you? And what does that give you guys? 47,250 times 125%, or you could plug in 1.25. That's 125% as well. And what's the equalized assessed value that should give you?
Is it 59,062?
Okay, let's go with that. All you did was 47,250 times 125 and hit the percent button, or you typed in 1.25 and hit equals. Okay, that gives you that figure. Let's go with that. Now, if the tax rate is $250 per $100, what was the number it gave you again as the equalized value?
59,062.
Divide that by 100. How many times does 100 go into it?
By the way, there's a 50 at the a 50 cent at the end. I don't know if that matters, but
Well, let's just go with whatever your answer is there.
Okay.
Divided by 100.
Divided by 100.
Yep.
500. Wait, what is this? 590, 63.
And then if the tax rate is 250, now you times that by 250. $2.50.
$1,476.56.
And that's the formula right there on screen that you used. You took 47,250, which was the assessed value. You times it by the equalization factor to get the equalized value. Then you divided that by 100 because it's per $100 of value. And then that gives you this amount. And then you times that by $2.50, the mill tax amount, to give you the $1476.56. Correct.
Thanks for that, Victor. I thought I was wrong the whole time.
No.
I'm glad you had the answer somewhere.
I need you guys to work it out, though. If I just tell you, you guys ain't gonna remember this, and you're still gonna hyperventilate when you hear math. It's not difficult. This is why I also said that on your scrap paper, when you're figuring out these problems, have scrap paper. So when you calculate the numbers in the calculator, you write next to each number what that figure is, so that you don't get lost in the numbers. You know what it is that you're typing up there. Okay. So you guys want to have a picture of this, and we'll move on. We got a couple more math problems in this chapter.
Victor, when they're done copying this, or taking a photo of this, there was a slide that you just showed. I took a photo of the one after it, but not the one that you just showed.
With the formulas and stuff? Okay.
Yeah, I can snap that before we move forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
So let me back that up. This one?
Yeah, I thought I took it, but okay, thank you.
And then we also had the one to do the reverse engineering to figure out the value of the property, which is further back. Here we go, using the assessed value divided by the tax ratio times 100 to figure out the market value that the tax assessor is using. I refer to him as the tax man. Please, Mr. Taxman. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
And by the way, in those tax brochures and appeal guides that I gave you, all these formulas should be in there as well. All right. Real estate values viewed for tax purposes by the owner and by the tax man. So look at that. When we're calculating taxes, all of a sudden the owner no longer looks at their house like this. When they list it for sale with us, they think they got this, and that's how much they want for it. But when it comes to the taxes and how much you need to pay, all of a sudden you become more in touch with reality. Right? That's the owner looks at their house like this, and the tax man looks at it like this. All right? So your taxes become a lien on your property as January 1st, but they bill you quarterly every 3 months. If by the end of the year, December 31st, you did not pay your taxes in full, they start sending you all kinds of notices, the late fees and penalties, and possible legal ramifications could occur if you don't pay your taxes on time. So 6 months after the end of the year, if you still have not paid your taxes, the tax collector will do a tax. They will schedule a tax foreclosure sale. So 6 months after the end of the year, when your taxes were due, you still did not pay them. They will then begin to schedule a tax auction. And then a tax auction will be advertised. It'll be posted in 5 places within the municipality and published in a newspaper in Trenton for 4 weeks. Over here says local newspaper for 4 weeks, but either way, they'll be in the newspaper for 4 weeks and posted in 5 places within the municipality. They'll put up a poster, someone tears it down. Oh, well, they posted it, okay? But that's why they got to put it in the newspaper as well. But either way, the homeowner's been getting the tax bills and they know they owe the taxes. So even if there's a tax sale that should occur and they claim that they have not been notified that there was going to be a tax auction, well, they knew they owed the money, so it doesn't matter. The sale's still valid. Now, this tax auction is for investors to come bid. The city just wants what is owed in the taxes. So when there's a tax auction, what actually occurs? What are you bidding on at the tax auction? You're not bidding on buying the house. You're bidding on how much, and you're not bidding on how much you're going to pay of the taxes. At the tax auction, any investor that goes to a tax auction is different than the sheriff's auction where a lender is owed money for the mortgage loan, which is a much larger amount. The tax auction is an auction where investors come and they just need to pay the full amount of outstanding taxes owed by the property owner. Okay, so what is it that you're bidding on? Because you're not bidding on how much of taxes you're paying. You have to pay the full amount that's outstanding. What you're paying as an investor that goes to these tax auctions is you're bidding on the interest rate you're going to charge that homeowner to pay you back. So you're going to the tax auction to bid on the taxes because you want to be the one that gets to pay their taxes that they didn't pay. You're like, oh, can I please pay their property taxes? Please, please. That's what an investor is bidding on when you go to a tax auction. Sounds silly, doesn't it? But what you're bidding on is not the amount that you're going to pay because you have to pay that full amount that's outstanding. What you're bidding on is how much in interest you're going to charge that homeowner to pay you back those taxes. And they have 2 years to pay you back. And if they don't pay you back within 2 years, you get to foreclose on them and get their property free and clear. There's 2 things certain in life, death and taxes. Taxes jump to the front of the lien repayment order. So if there's a tax foreclosure that occurs, that wipes out even a first mortgage loan on a property. So you get the property free and clear. So even if there was an outstanding mortgage on that house for $300,000, it is gone. You now owe that property free and clear for just whatever you paid in their property taxes and paid an attorney to do the foreclosure. That's it. You own the house now, free and clear, if they don't pay you back. Now, if they do pay you back, they're going to pay you back all the money plus the interest rate that you won at auction. The interest starts at 18% and then you bid down. The city's not making it harder for people to keep their home. They want them the homeowner to be able to keep their house, but they also want the tax dollars. So the interest starts at 18%, and then investors would, if you have more than one investor bidding to pay your taxes, they're bidding on the interest rate, and the lowest bidder that bids the lowest interest rate, they're going to charge the homeowner is the one that wins that auction. Yeah, how much are your banks, your savings accounts paying you these days on your money?
Minimal.
Probably not even 0.1%. Most banks. So 18% is not a bad return. Having your money, you need to have your money be prepared to be tied up for 2 years. And then you get your money back plus 18%. But really, what you're hoping is that they don't even pay you that back. Because then you could foreclose on them and get their house for whatever you paid in their outstanding taxes that they didn't pay for 1 or 2 years. Not a bad deal, huh? See, I said you could get involved in real estate. Takes money, but not the kind of scratch that's required to be buying houses, fixing them and flipping them and going through all that aggravation. You just pay their taxes, sit back and wait for 2 years. They either pay you back your money plus a high rate of interest. You more interest than what you're getting paid for your money sitting in a bank account. Or best case scenario, they don't pay you back and you foreclose on them and you get clear title to the property for whatever you paid in their outstanding taxes, plus an attorney to do the foreclosure for you. And then you sell the property at a you don't even have to sell it at market value. You could sell it at a deep discount price so that you get a quick sale on it, and then you'll make a boatload of money. This is called tax auction investing. So the purchaser at a tax sale receives a tax certificate, but is not entitled to occupy or use the property and does not receive title. So when you win, when you're the winning bidder at that tax auction, don't go walking on the property or peeping through the windows for the house that you may possibly get if they don't pay you back in 2 years. Okay. They'll probably call the cops and you'll get arrested for being a peeping Tom. Okay. Don't do that. Uh, if the municipality purchases the certificate themselves, they pay your taxes. The delinquent homeowner has only 6 months to pay them back and redeem their property. But if the certificate is bought by a private investor like you or I that go to these tax auctions, the redemption period is 2 years. The homeowner has 2 years to pay us back, plus interest and reasonable legal fees. So the homeowner trying to regain the property must pay those reasonable legal costs and interest on the overdue taxes. After the redemption period is passed without the owner redeeming the property, the holder of the certificate that won that auction can obtain clear title by the legal process of foreclosure anytime within 20 years. Why would you wait 20 years? Who's going to be paying the taxes in the meantime? They may have another tax foreclosure auction in the meantime, and then you lose your space. So I would immediately start that foreclosure process. Now, if the municipality forecloses on a tax sale certificate, it is through the process of judicial foreclosure held before a court. This action is called an in rem proceeding. So what do we call the special court proceeding reserved only for municipalities to foreclose due to non-payment of taxes? I literally just read it. Come on, guys. What do we call that special court proceeding reserved only for municipalities to foreclose due to non-payment of taxes?
In rem.
In rem. Thank you. All right. Everybody got the highlights here?
Not
Yep.
Yes.
1 second.
Okay.
Yes.
Good? Yes? No? Come on, guys, answer me when I talk to you.
1 second.
Yes.
All right, so the taxation, okay, so I have all of these notes summarized on one page right here if you wanted to snap a picture of it. And I also give you a resource. I give you a link down the bottom of a software company that creates auction software and tax tracking for municipalities. So why do I have a link to that? Because that is the website that you could go to find the tax auction pages for many municipalities in New Jersey who use their software. Now, when you initially go to their website, here, I'll give you a direct link to that. If you initially go to their website, this is what you get. So you have to go to the clients page. The clients would be the municipalities that are buying their products. Now they got products for different things. We're going to go to the Real Tax Lien, their software for that. And then we're going to use the filter and just search New Jersey. So now we'll have all the municipalities in New Jersey that use their tax software, which is 265 of them. How many municipalities we have in New Jersey? 564. So we got about a little bit. We got about a little bit more than half of the municipalities in New Jersey here that use this software to do their tax auctions. And they put together the websites too. Like, for instance, look at Aberdeen. We'll click on the first one here, Aberdeen. All these websites look very similar. They use their template here. You got the starting to register, review, preview items for sale. You can look at their bidding rules in Aberdeen and see the results from the auction. Here's some training and general information, how the tax certificate process works. You can read up all about that there. Now, this is Aberdeen, New Jersey's tax auction website. Now, if you want to, you got to really look at the ones that say site opens. Otherwise, like if we were to click on that Aberdeen one again, we look at the preview items, it's not going to show you anything because there's no auction scheduled yet. So the ones like this one, Absecon in Atlantic County, it opens on 2/18. So if we were to click on this site, let's look at the one for Absecon. What are they currently setting it up or something? It doesn't look like they even set this site up yet. Bidding rules, results. Oh, that's weird.
The Cumberland is open.
See, you know what? They may be updating it right now with all the auction properties, so it's showing this page now. But let's look at a different one. Let's go back. Let's find another one that shows that it's opening soon. So we're scrolling down, looking at all these different municipalities. Okay, here's one commercial from Cumberland County. The town name is Commercial. Okay. This was from December, though. Preview items for sale. All right, so we can see some items for sale. Not all properties always sell at the tax auctions either. So let's look at the items for sale. First of all, there's a charge type you got to look at. T can be taxes. It could be, then you could have S. S could be sanitation, or it could be sewage and water. You really got to look at what the tax charges are. Either way, it doesn't matter if it is water, sewer, whatever. Look at some of the values here. Here's one active $1,800, and they give you the parcel ID and the auction number. Look at this one, $109. That means somebody paid the majority of their taxes except for $109. Imagine losing your property because you didn't pay $109 on it. $37.37 right there.
When those this is
Now, this was some kind of community church. They had a couple of those, though. I'm sorry, what was the question?
for those this is unavailable.
They
Somebody-
either stepped in last minute and paid their bill,
Oh, okay.
then it was taken off the auction, or somebody bought it. Usually, when it says unavailable, it means that they stepped in and they paid their taxes. They got caught up.
Oh, okay.
So it was taken off the auction block. Let's see this guy, Brandon Garcia, owed $2,615. Let's click on the parcel ID. Oh, that takes you here. We needed to take note of the parcel. 23-74738. So we'd have to write that down. And let's see if I can get the information from here. Yeah. Okay, so here we got the address of that property. There's also the legal description includes some additional lots that go with it. The face value is $26.15. We can look up the certificate or the total charges, and we can see that's from a sale and then property taxes. And he never paid them. It's outstanding, $2,615. But if you don't pay them, you could lose them. You could lose that property. Are there any other previous auctions that were on this property? No. So you would be the only certificate holder if you bid and won this auction. Let's take a look at this property on a map. Let's zoom in on it. Take a look at it. Well, looks like a decent sized corner property lot there. Get an idea of the neighborhood here. Get a layout of the neighborhood. All right. See, doesn't look like we're in any flood zones over here. Oh, maybe there's some water over here. You'd really have to run it on flood map planes because it looks like there's some tributaries and stuff that come up pretty close. So it may be in a flood zone. You really got to look out for those things sometimes. What is this that is orange? Somebody got an orange roof on their house. All right. That stood out like a sore thumb, huh? Somebody got a blue roof on their house here. What the hell's going on in this neighborhood? You really need to get the street view of this one. Here, let's see. This is Bing Maps, or is this Google? Really like to get the street view. Oh, here we go. Where is the street view? Yeah. There's no street view available for this one, but I guess you could plug the address into Google Maps and then get that. I don't know if this is what maps this is. Is this Google Maps? No, this is some other mapping system. If you lay it in Google Maps, you could get the street view on this property now too and take a look and see what it looks like. Here we go in Millville. Here we could copy that address and we could go to plug it into Google Maps. And let's look at that on Google Maps. Well, I guess that was Google Maps. Yeah, let's drop this little guy right here. Oh, come on. Let's see what it looks like. So Google didn't drive down these streets, it looks like. Well, you got a neighbor that got a boat in their front yard. You really got to drive by and see these properties before you bid on them if you can't see them on these mapping software. Wheaton Real Estate. Look at that property. You got some water over here. You really got to look at them. But either way, that's the property that you would be bidding on. And then,
Look like a trailer.
yeah, I'm not sure. No, that looks kind of big though.
Yeah, I see the pictures and they got it. It's look like a trailer, but
You think
everything.
that's a trailer?
Yeah, all the rooms are bad.
Oh, because you looked at it. That's right. It did show up on the on one of
Yeah.
those Trulia websites or something like that. Yeah. So so you can see what it is that you're bidding on that property and see if it's something that you wanted to bid on. All right. So that's just another example. You know, you go through these, try to find out, you know, when auctions go up. Let's go up to the next page. You know, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but here's some other ones in Elmer, Salem, Burlington counties. Not really areas that I'd be looking personally, but it is an investment, so it doesn't really matter. Here, Lacey's pretty nice. Lacey Township. Let's look at some of the items for sale there. Okay, this lady got a lot of tax charges. She got her property tax, water and sewage, or waste and sewage. And you can even look up these charges. So if you were to click on this and you look at the total charges, it'll break it down. Property tax, cost of sale, water, and sewer bills have all gone unpaid. She owes $4,390.27. Is there any history? No history of previous tax auctions on there, so you'd be the only holder of a certificate. It looks like somebody sold it. That somebody bought it at auction, though. See at the sold status, and you get the lot and block numbers here, and you can look it up even further. But let's see, what did somebody bid on? What kind of Ooh, look at that! Nice waterfront property there with the boat slips and such, and Lacey. That's money right there, my friends. Look at that, right on the Jersey Shore. Barnegat Bay, right off the Barnegat Bay there. Look at that house. They got a dock right there. That's money right there, my friends. Huh. Hope she's all right. She didn't pay those taxes, not because she's in the hospital or dead, you know. But hey, things happen like this, and then things go up for auction. Somebody bought the certificate though. They got to hold on to it for 2 years. But that was a nice one. How about this one? This one's just for taxes, 2,100. They give you the address and everything. No history, just the taxes. Oh, looks like it's in the same area there. It is. Couple rows down. Someone else didn't pay their taxes there. Lacey Township right there. Was that one bought? Yep, that one was sold too. See, these things will sell at auction, you know. Well, you have to pay this full outstanding amount. Let's see, some holdings company for $4,500. Pensacola Road. No history. That's the taxes. And this one's inland a little bit. No boat slip. But still, these look like they're newer houses over here too, just based on the roof and the styles. Interesting. Sold as well. Anyway, don't want to spend a lot of time wasting checking out properties. We could check them out on our own time and then take the lot and block numbers, put them in here. We could find out the history of the property, who bought it, how long they've owned it, and yada, 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 what the history of the property is. So I'm giving you guys also resources on how to bid at auctions on properties. And you go to realauction.com. There's one resource. Now, if your municipality is not listed on their website that you want to bid on, you got to call the tax office, tax collector's office in your municipality that you're interested in, and ask, where do they advertise their auction properties, their tax auction properties? Do they have a website for it? Or do they do it by fax? Or I got to get on an email list? Or is it on their own website that they do it? You know, some of them are still using fax machines, you know, they're not into modern ages yet, you know. So you got to really look at it. Some of them, they do these auctions right on the courthouse steps. Some of them, it's in one of the courtrooms. Some they'll have it in a library. Some of them, they'll do it just online or both in the courthouse and through online bidding. However, if you're bidding online, you have to, in advance of that auction, go send money, a certified funds for the tax collector for a certain percentage of the amount that you're bidding, and then the balance has to be paid within a certain time frame as well. All right, so this is how you get involved in tax auctions, guys. It takes a lot less money to get involved in real estate investing than it does for buying properties at a regular auction, which can be risky and still have outstanding property taxes on them. So some of these properties could be sold at a regular auction too, because they haven't been making their mortgage payments too. But if those people don't pay the taxes back and you are the bidder and a holder of a tax certificate, well, then you could foreclose on them too. All right, so this is the deal, everything for the tax auctions, okay? Everybody's interested in taking a screenshot, took a screenshot?
I'd like to take a shot. 1 second.
Okay, Doug.
Got it. Thanks.
So, like I was telling you, the winner at the auction gets to pay the owner's full outstanding taxes. The bidder must have all the money and is only bidding on the interest rate. It starts at 18%. If there's no other bidders, you get it at 18%. If there are other bidders, you could bid down, and you could bid all the way down to zero and then start paying a premium. Okay. The winner then gets a tax lien certificate. It does not give you title to the property. It just gives you a certificate that says you paid this much in taxes and at what interest rate you're charging the homeowner and what's the deadline that they have to pay you back by. Otherwise, you could foreclose on them. And you could foreclose on them as if you were the municipality yourself foreclosing due to non-payment of taxes. So you jump up to the top of the list when it comes to the lien repayment orders, right? So you could wipe out a first mortgage.
For that, you can do yourself, or you need to hire somebody?
You can do it yourself.
Oh, okay.
So the bidder is not entitled to occupy or use the property. They do not get title at auction. You're just getting a certificate, and you got to hold back for 2 years. Give them the opportunity to pay you back. If they don't, then you move in and foreclose. Now, if you're a softie and say, oh no, I wouldn't foreclose and kick this person out, what I would do is, I'd approach them and see maybe I could sell it back to them or rent it to them. Well, if they're not paying their property taxes, what the hell makes you think they're going to pay you the rent? You know, I wouldn't bother doing that. If you're too much of a softie, then don't get involved in these kinds of things. All right. Jarsol, what link are you talking about? The auction link?
Yes.
Okay, it's right here, realauction.com. Realauction.com.
Can you copy and paste?
Oh, you want me to do everything for you? Okay, hold on. Hold on. I do have it in the class links Word document, like all the links in
Oh,
the
okay.
class,
All right.
but here it is.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. Hmm. And when you guys become members of MLSs, you'll have access to robust tax search systems. But here's access to that free one right now. All right, so income tax issues for home sellers. You should always refer people to the experts when they seek information. Refer queries to their accountants and tax attorneys. But both the federal and state governments have exclusions from capital gains taxes on the profit of the sale of your primary residence. If you lived in that house for at least 2 out of the last 5 years before you sell it. If you're a single filer, meaning that you're married and file your taxes separately, or you're simply a single person that files your taxes on your own, you qualify for a $250,000 exclusion from capital gains taxes on the profit of the sale of your primary residence. If you're married and you file your taxes jointly with your spouse, you could get up to a $500,000 exclusion from capital gains tax on the profit, up to $500,000 profit on the sale of your house, where you will pay 0 state and federal income taxes on it. But you had to live in that house for at least 2 out of the last 5 years. And if you lived in it for less than 2 years, you may still be allowed certain deductions by the IRS if you were forced to sell due to a hardship, which the IRS classifies as hardships, job loss, or you're forced to transfer your job, so you have to sell to move, health reasons, death, divorce, or having multiple children, multiple births. That could be a financial hardship on you that would force the sale of that house. Okay, so let's highlight that there on page 140. You do get this as a question on exams a lot. So if it's your primary residence, married couples filing jointly get up to a $500,000 capital gains tax exclusion. Single filers qualify for up to $250,000. You had to live in that house for at least 2 out of the last 5 years, and you could reuse this as often as every 2 years. But that's like a younger man's game, where you buy a house, you move into it while you're fixing it to flip it, and then you sell it. And as long as you lived in it for at least 2 years while you were fixing it up and everything, by the time you sell it and then you move on, buy another house, you move into that one while you're fixing it up, you sell the previous one, and you pay 0 state or federal income taxes on the profit of the sale. So you could do that over and over and over and over again if you like. And you pay no taxes. Yeah, go ahead.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So I personally don't like moving a lot, but but if you're into moving a lot, there you go. Every 2 years, there you go. Zero state or federal income taxes, at least right now. You know, uh, tax laws change a little bit. This has been the law for a long time, but tax laws change a bit. And now with the new Trump presidency, who knows what the taxes are going to be? He's proposing a flat tax, you know. But then again, there's a lot of stuff floating around right now. People are saying a VAT tax based on consumption and use of services, or a flat tax. What would you like as a tax?
Victor, what's a flat tax?
Yeah. Flat tax based on your income will determine what you pay in taxes. You don't need to calculate expenses or exceptions, or you don't have to have complicated calculations in order to figure out what deductions you have or anything. You just pay a flat tax based on the money that you have in your assets. Okay, that's it. Whereas income taxes as it is now, it depends on how many kids you have. It depends on, do you own or rent? It depends on deductions for all kinds of stuff, that you could qualify for if you know the tax code and the tax laws. It's pretty complicated right now, and it works differently for different brackets. For up to a certain dollar amount, you pay a certain tax, and another tax for the other amount that you make within this bracket, you pay a different amount, and so on and so forth. It's kind of complicated right now, and they recently made it even more complicated. But I see he's trying to simplify this. He tried doing this during his last term too. He said he wanted to simplify taxes so that you could file your taxes on a postcard. Wouldn't that be great? I'm sure that'll be that many more people that want to kill him now, that are in the tax business, that now are going to lose their jobs from not being able to file your complicated taxes. But either way, they're the what kind of think about it for a second. What would make you happy? What would simplify the taxes in a way that you would be happy? Would you like to pay a VAT tax based on consumption and use of things, or would you like to pay a flat tax based on your income? Or do you like it the complicated way? Think about it. Or is there some alternative way of paying taxes that you would prefer? Or would you like his other suggestion, would be charging what was it, tariffs to other countries and then not tax U.S. citizens at all? Some things to ponder. It's not what this class is really about, but since we're mentioning taxes and filing of taxes and having deductions for this and that, it's something to think of, something to think on there a little bit. But you need to know these figures, by the way, and that you had to live in the house for 2 out of the last 5 years to get it. It is on exam. Everybody get this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Now, first-time home buyers may make penalty-free withdrawals from their retirement plans up to $10,000 if they're using it for down payment on their first home. However, you do have to pay it back to your own retirement plan with interest, but you're basically paying yourself back. This is just an option right there so that we're aware that we could advise people if they don't have all this money that they need. They could get up to $10,000 from their retirement plan. They could pull it out penalty-free if they use it as a down payment. But tell them not to just go pulling the money out. Go through their tax professionals, because there's a proper way to pull this money out. Because normally when you pull the money out of your retirement plans before you're of retirement age, you get murdered in taxes, early withdrawal fees, taxes, and penalties. So make sure that it gets done the proper way. I'm not sure with the filing of the paperwork how exactly that gets done, but you can make a penalty-free withdrawals up to $10,000 to purchase your first home. And first home is kind of a subjective term as well, depending on what government agency you're talking to. Sometimes a first home just means you didn't own a house in the last 3 years. You know, so it's not necessarily the same definition that you would assume that having a first home means. All right, say, yeah, I've owned plenty of homes in my lifetime. Okay, did you own one in the last 3 years? If you didn't, then you would be classified as a first-time home buyer. In some instances. I don't know about this one. Okay. Everybody got this highlight?
Yes.
Now, there are better ways to deal with this. You could always do negotiations depending on the type of market we're in. If we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market, you could negotiate and have the seller ask the seller to pay your closing costs so that you wouldn't need to do any of this. Who would have thunk it? Ask the seller to pay it. Why would the seller pay the closing cost? Because they want to sell their house. That's why. Yeah, I know. They argue about the commission that they pay us all the time, but yet they're willing to give money away to sell the house, you know, for the closing cost and such to make it so that deals can happen. It's a kind of a whole ridiculous scenario there that we go through. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. I mean, it does to us. We could see what's going on here beyond the picture, but you know, the way we need to argue and fight and scratch and claw our way to earn a decent living and get a commission paid to us, and we have homeowners that are, you know, complaining about how much we get paid or even sharing that commission with other buyers agents who introduce buyers to their houses, but yet they're willing to give up money to pay closing costs and all kinds of stuff in order to make a deal happen. And usually their first price reduction when they overprice a house is more than our entire commission that we charge. It's kind of laughable because you got to chuckle because it's so freaking ridiculous, but you guys will see this is what happens. You know. All right. And I think this is the last slide we have here in this chapter. Yep, it is. So that concludes chapter 8. Let's do the key terms to review. And we are all set for this chapter. All right. So let me pull this out and we'll do our key terms to review. Chapter 8. There is one of them, I believe. Yep, only one. And it's on page 141. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So, tax set according to the value of the property. What do we call that?
Ad valorem tax?
Ad valorem tax.
Ad valorem.
It's Latin for according to value. So one is A. Estimate based on the probable sales price. What is an estimate based on probable sales price called? An estimate of value based on probable sales price.
Mhm.
Come on, guys. We should have more than one person trying to answer these questions here. We're doing the key terms to review, page 141.
But
An
I know,
estimate based on probable sales price.
I know it'd be one of the assessments, either 5 or 10. I'll go with
Value.
value assessment.
It is full value assessment B. 5 is B. Because that's the probable sales price, the full value, based on its full value. 5 is B. The value used for tax purposes. Your taxes are based on what value?
Full value assessment. No?
No, that was the one for the last problem. Estimate based on the probable sales price would be full value assessment. What is a value that's used for taxation purposes? How do they calculate your taxes based on what value? Is it based on the full property value, the market value?
The assessment?
The assessed value it's based on. So it's 3 is E. Wait, hold on a second. Where is this? Value for taxation purposes. Oh, 2. 2 is E. Oh my God, where am I here? 2 is C. 2 is C. We're on C. So full value for tax purposes. 2 is C, assessed value. There we go. I don't know where the hell I am reading stuff in error. Okay, adjust for assessment variations. What are the adjustments that are for assessment variations to make sure everybody's paying their fair share and not too much?
Equalization factor?
It is an equalization factor. 4 is D. A list of all the taxable properties in the municipality. A list of all the taxable property. What do we call that?
Assessment roll.
3 is E, the assessment roll. Time in which a foreclosed owner can regain property.
Redemption period.
It's a redemption period. 8 is F. Collection of overdue taxes through public auction of property.
Tax sale.
13 is G. It's a tax sale. A taxable property in the municipality is also referred to as
Rateable?
it's a rateable. 7 is H. It's a rateable. Assessment of all municipalities ratables. What do you call it when they do a reval? I just gave
Evaluation.
a revaluation. 9 is I. Okay. A tax only on property directly benefiting from an improvement.
Special assessment.
10 is J, the special assessment. 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent is referred to as a
Mill.
mill. 6 is K. Municipality's financial claim against real property.
Tax lien.
A tax lien. 12 is L. And seizing of property for unpaid taxes.
Tax foreclosure.
Tax foreclosure. 11 is M. And that concludes this chapter and the key terms to review.
5 is what? I'm sorry.